Let me take a sip because this is going to be one hell of a podcast. Calculated moves. So welcome to my official first episode of Calculated Moves. I almost actually forgot the title of this podcast just a second ago, and I blame that on my pregnancy brain. So if you hear me heavy breathing, it is because I'm very much pregnant. So this is the first official. I am your host, Risa Quinn, and I actually love to call myself the corporate truth bringer because I don't like to BS. I rather not waste your time, my time. Welcome. Okay, so I titled this episode Not Part of the Plan Anymore, Layoffs, PIPs, and Corporate Office Politics. This is actually my favorite topic just because a lot of people don't like to cover this, or they can't cover this because they're either in a corporate environment still and they can't talk about it, or, they just don't want to push buttons. But me, on the other hand, I don't care. I don't care because what you see is common trends, and people should be very aware of the things that are going on within corporate and how to strategically align yourself within the right parts of the organization. Now, not all organizations are bad. I must say that. Not all are bad, but most are. Okay. And we also have to attribute the truth here that you may not be as good as an employee that you think you are either. So you have to look at yourself and say, hey, am I doing the work as well? So we're going to cover a few things today of my favorite topics. If you already don't follow me on TikTok, I love to talk about this stuff. So, yeah, my absolute favorite topic. And I say this is my favorite topic because this is what brought on the truth bringer, the PIP. So before I go into the PIP, let's explain what a PIP is, because I realize a lot of people don't know what the PIPs are. So PIPs are performance improvement plans that a company puts you on, and usually they span around 30 days. Now, they can be extended to 60 days, 90 days, whatever, but most commonly, they're usually 30 days. And within those 30 days, the company gives you a list of things that you need to do in order to stay employed with them. So there's a little bit of politics behind the PIPs. It's not all as what it seems. It's a bit controversial, and I like controversial. So let's talk about it. My first time that I had to put someone on a PIP as a manager, I had good intentions, truly. That direction came from higher ups. I actually didn't know what a PIP was at the time. And my higher ups really didn't want this employee working with us. I ended up managing her. I was managing her. So obviously the PIP would have to go through me. I would say I agreed with the company. She was very difficult to deal with, but I always give people the benefit of the doubt. I tend not to judge because a lot of people got home situations, but it was kind of inching into like, oh, this is kind of like a year worth of bad behavior. So let me explain to you what was going on, just so you guys can understand by context why somebody might be placed on a PIP. And there are various reasons, but here's the reason why I had to issue my first PIP. So first and foremost, I managed a team when I worked in corporate, long time yonder. And I actually hired this woman, and we were very optimistic about her. She was perfect fit for this certain role that was very much customer facing. So pretty much you needed somebody who had a great attitude, very peppy, very nice, very customer servicey. And she started out like that. She won everyone over, by the way, in the interview. So it was a no-brainer. Everybody was like, yes, let's hire her. This is a good move. There was not one person that was against it. And we actually rushed her hiring. So we hired her. She started, and the first 2 months was great. We were like, man, like we made the best decision ever. Then something happened. I feel like I may have asked her to do something. That probationary time was coming up, and now it was time to really take on some responsibilities. And I think from there, it just went downhill. And I'm a pretty honest person. I don't think I'm a bad manager. I give people the benefit of doubt, and I'm very empathetic. So it's not like I was demanding her or very rude or anything like that. But again, I attributed this behavior to maybe something going on in her personal life. Well, man, it started to bleed over into other departments. And again, she had a customer facing role. So this is very crucial that this person is like on point at all times. So people started to raise the red flag, like, oh my gosh, we have a problem on our hands. I tried methods of talking to her one-on-one, but it almost fueled her into like the other direction. She felt like I was picking on her. She felt like I was singling her out, and she never took accountability. But this is straight out data. Like, I'm a person who's straight out facts, datas, and stats. Like, the proof is in the pudding. Like, if you're getting feedback and the feedback is like 1 star, that's a fact, right? I'm not making this up. People publicly, they're saying this about you. Again, she lacked accountability. I did this about 2 more times before my boss stepped in and was like, we got to get rid of her. I was like, you know what? It was becoming really hard to manage her at that point. And I could tell my patience was weighing down. So I was like, you know what? Okay. So we would quit on her own, but that wasn't happening. Her behavior just kept getting worse. So we pulled HR in, and HR was like, well, we need to put her on a PIP. And that was the first time I ever heard of a PIP. I was like, what is a PIP? And they told me what I explained to you guys. And they're like, okay, yeah, it's time. So I'm like, okay, cool. We give her this PIP and she turns it around. And, maybe she's not aware of like how serious this is for her. So maybe she'll turn it around. Y'all, what do you think happened? What the fuck do you think happened? Okay. Let me just say, in the meeting during the PIP, she sat down and I could tell it was me, our HR executive, and her in the room. A very small room too. God, it was just such a small room. And I could feel her eyes just burning at me. Like I've never felt that somebody wanted to kill me until that moment. Like, I was like, damn. So she signed away, which was 30 days. And she had 30 days to follow the directions on the PIP, whatever it said, good behavior, positive attitude, timely, attendance, stuff like that. She survived the PIP. She was a complete, different person. I swear, it was so crazy. I was like, okay, this is good. This is great. This is what we needed. Maybe this is all she needed was a wake-up call. Day 31. She was back. It was like a nightmare. And it was worse than what it was. She was like, oh, I survived the PIP. You can't find me now. No, they'll find a way, honey. Okay. So she ended up getting fired. There was just so much you could do. And basically from that moment on, I've learned that the PIP is actually just a legal way of firing someone without outright firing them. Because with just firing people, it comes with so many workplace employment law questions. and issues. Like you could say, there was no warning, I didn't receive no documentation. Dude, there's just a lot of things that would tote the line of, maybe I need to contact an employment lawyer. So a PIP literally is a document saying we gave this person a chance and they just couldn't fulfill. So basically a PIP is just a legal way of getting someone out of the company without having to worry about employment law issues. So signs you're being set up for a pimp. Signs you're being set up for a PIP. One, they start to micromanage you more, right? Have you received warning signs? Have you been told, your behavior is this, or you're lacking this, stuff like that. If they start to look a lot, if you're in a role that, can be tracked, like there's some measurable data, then that's something to, note about. If they ask, hey, can we see your call logs for the month, the number of call logs? I know that's normal in some roles, but sometimes it's a bit excessive if they're like, really pushing for that data. When they leave you out of meetings, like future projection meetings, I would be very wary about your future there. Also, if there's something called performance reviews where it just, I don't even want to talk about performance reviews. Probably might be another episode, but you guys go look that up on the side. But oftentimes people who they want to place on PIPs, they'll give you this overly ambitious, like, performance review measurable goal that they know you won't meet. And it's kind of a Debbie Downer. So you have to look at that stuff as well. I talked about documenting everything. If they ask you to document anything and everything, there's a problem, right? So yeah, those are the signs of a PIP. And the thing I would always suggest to people who's being placed on a PIP is they're going to try to get rid of you. Regardless of if you survive the PIP or not, it's just best to start looking. Somebody somewhere in the company does not like you and they want you out. And this is their way of getting you out. So take that as a hint and almost like a runway to start looking, right? Now, necessarily, it's also, again, with my situation, it's good to look at yourself as well and say, have I been a bad employee? It's okay to have judgment on yourself. Like a lot of people can't do that as well. And that's a problem. Taking accountability, being self-aware and understanding how you're coming off to people is very important skill set that a lot of people lack. And to be honest, you can't keep bullshitting yourself before somebody will figure out that you're just a shit employee. Like you won't survive, like you really won't, and you'll make enemies quicker than anything else. So along with a PIP, also look inward at yourself and do some reflection and say, have I been this person that they are, portraying me as, or am I just really being set up for failure? Another thing with PIPs is your PIPs, to make it non-survivable also, is they give you those overly ambitious goals that they know you can't meet within the PIP. Like, if you never made 150 calls in the month, you maybe made 20, they'll set you up to do 150 calls. Like, you know what I'm saying? So you could kind of tell like, oh no, they don't want me here. So yeah, PIPs are politics, so be very wary when your company puts you on a PIP. It's time to deuce out, and it's okay. Not all goodbyes are bad endings. Well, for that one, probably, yeah, but it could start a new good beginning somewhere, and that's all that matters. That's all that matters. All right. And I will also leave this advice with PIPs is don't be quick to sign a severance package. Always run it by somebody because you can negotiate severance packages. So even if you are unaware of like what you should be getting on your exit out, run it by somebody and don't be quick to sign something, because they will force it down your throat and say, hey, sign this, we'll give you 3 months worth of pay. And you're probably looking at that like, yeah, hell yeah, but you could have negotiated like 6 to 12 months. So don't always be quick to sign things. Say, I want to take this home, I want to look at this some more, and then when I'm ready to say F you, I will come and return it back to you. Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, now let's jump into my next favorite topic, which is corporate and office politics. And you know, the interesting thing about office politics is it's not recognized amongst a lot of people. A lot of people are very naive to what this is. But office and corporate politics is very much like real politics, truly. You saw how nasty it got. You see how campaigns, you know, each party would throw shade at each campaign. Who you align yourself with matters, because now you're the enemy of the other. Hey, you guys say hi to my husband. This is my podcast. Say hi, husband.
I can't get in front of the camera.
Oh, dang. Apologies, guys. Life happens. I am a mom and a wife and a dog mom of 2. So, and I'm recording at home. So what do you expect? All right. So we were talking about corporate and office politics. So politics in corporate and office, very similar to real life politics. Each side throws shade at each other. Who you align yourself with matter. You become the enemy of the other side. And, you know, it's a race to the top. It truly is. And I will say this. You primarily see politics heavily the closer you are to the top. And this is primarily why I say I was very naive to it early on in my career. All right. So I'm going to give you guys a little story time. Whew. I hate digging in my past, but here we go. So as you guys know, I'm a young Black female. Well, I was very young at the time. I entered in the workforce when I was like 20, I would say 19, 20. And I loved my first gig. Oh my gosh, I loved it so much. It taught me a lot. It's one of my favorite places that I've ever worked. And I would return there in a heartbeat, but I would return there smarter and wiser. See, I didn't notice that people would make comments, do things, leave you out. I didn't notice those things at first, right? And I was very naive to think everyone had good intentions. But they don't. Those were subtle signs of wanting to make me feel less than. And that's normal in any part of life. You see that if you have any adversity, you'll see that type of rejection. And again, I was so naive. I was just like a very young, like, la la la, oh, you don't want me to talk in a meeting because I'm a woman or a female? Like, oh, okay. I would just think of it like, okay, I'm just young, I'm new, whatever. But as you get older, wiser, more experienced, you realize that those are ways of holding you back. And sometimes it has to do directly with you, or sometimes it could be directly with who hired you or who you align yourself with. There's so many various reasons as to why people would want to stunt your growth. And again, only experience can bring you that type of knowledge. And me, of course. But again, I'm almost glad I was very naive to it earlier on, because I wasn't as emotionally mature as I became as I got older. The more adversity I face, the stronger I got. So it almost worked out in my favor that I was that bubbly, naive person. The only sad thing is it killed my spirit as I got older. I realized I became more stern. I became shorter with people. I had a lack of trust, and just my heart of thinking that there's good intentions out of everybody just went away. It's completely gone. I think of the latter before I think of the positive, right? I think somebody's out to get me before, I think, oh, they probably mean no harm, no fault. So I can say I'm not a weak bitch because of it. I will say that. And I'm completely fine with it as today. I don't complain about it because, let me tell you, I changed the way I thought about it. At first, when things would happen to me, or I would see someone subtly throwing shade, wanting to hold me back, I used to be highly offended. Like, what did I do to you? Like, just so young and immature. What did I do to you? No. Now I think, damn, I must really be a threat to you if you really want to hold me back. Like, think about it. I am that important in your life that you want to dwindle my positive spirit to make yourself feel better, with hopes that I will feel less of myself and I will become worse of an employee. I would become less, positive. I would become just a victim of imposter syndrome. And once I sat there and I changed the way I thought about things, like, damn, I'm just a threat, huh? It made me a beast. It made me indestructible, because every time somebody would throw shade, I'm like, oh, so you think I'm better than you? Okay, this is great. And that was my advantage, because then I knew there's a weak spot. Because you see, positive people, happy people, intelligent people don't waste their time putting down other people. They're too busy trying to improve or further something in the world, right? Like, I think the lack of knowledge and ignorance come from people who spend their time just peeling people down, right? When they just talk bad about people. Like, this is how you choose to live your life. You have one life to live, and this is what you choose to do with it. That is pretty sucky to me. And it seems like you're already killing yourself. I don't even have to do much, right? Like, I don't have to respond. I don't have to say much. You're already giving yourself a heart attack before, life can get to you. So, I mean, there's a level of confidence it should give you if somebody is, quote unquote, attacking you or picking on you or bullying you, because there's something in them literally that is lacking so much. They want to dim your light so that you feel less than how they feel. And again, going back to corporate and office politics, you'll see this a lot, because a lot of people make the company their personality. And once they see someone as a threat, or someone who is a great employee or rising employee, they will do anything to eliminate that threat, right? So what are the ways of doing that? Taking credit for your work, not giving you promotions, calling you out in meetings to make you feel like you're, made mistakes, just making you feel like you don't belong overall. We all know that feeling. Well, some of us don't, but for the most part, most of us probably do. And corporate politics is just 2% of that, how it makes you feel. Corporate politics masks a whole bigger problem, and that's sometimes is not even about you. It's about who you align yourself with, right? So that could be hey, you have good intentions about making friends with Mary, but did you know that Mary was well hated amongst all the execs, and the moment that they could fire her, they will? But because you chose to be friends with Mary, now they see you just as they see Mary, as a horrible individual they want to get rid of. That's the nature of politics, alignment, who you choose sides with. And you don't even have to forcefully choose sides. It's just some people are naive, like how I was, and you're thinking with good intentions. But I will be honest with you, there are very rare good intentions in business, in corporate, in career. It is a dog eat dog world because it's survival. You are there to get paid. You are there to do a job. You are there, and some people are there to climb the top. Whenever you have money, power in the mix, it's always going to raise problems. It's always going to raise these alignments, these issues, these threats, always. So again, don't be naive to the little subtle shade, because they probably are really happening. But don't also emotionally tie yourself to these things as well. Don't sit there and dwindle on someone making you feel less than. And it also starts with you, okay? A lot of people, you know what kills me is a lot of people throw around imposter syndrome. And granted, I don't want to say this is not a real thing, because, you know, I'll be just a horrible person, I guess, if I say that. But you are the first person that's going to root for you. If you don't even root for you, that's telling everyone else we don't need to root for you. So if you believe you don't belong in a room, no one else is going to believe it. So why do you even step in the room, right? Just don't show up. But you don't want to show up. You don't want to not show up. You're curious, right? So again, imposter syndrome is your own insecurities. And in order to survive corporate, you have to be your biggest advocate. You're the only person that's going to root for you. Even if you think somebody's on your side, don't ever think like that. This is war at all times. Now, I'm not saying actively be out in war, do evil things. I'm saying you have to have the mindset that no one has your back, that it's only you. So when people step on your toes in meetings and they don't give you credit, you stand up for yourself and you give yourself credit. You advocate for yourself. You don't walk into rooms and feel like, oh, I don't belong here, or I shouldn't be here, or I feel less than because I'm probably the lowest title member here. If you were invited, you're there. You're there to learn. And again, another thing too is it's not best to always be the smartest in the room. I actually prefer not being the smartest in the room. Matter of fact, just a sidebar, I actually love having friends that are smarter than me. If I can run circles around people, I tend to get bored of them. And I like to have my mind challenged often. So that's why I love walking into rooms that I may not necessarily be the strongest or the smartest, you know, but I promise you I'm going to equip myself once I leave the room, because I'm going to absorb so much from being in the room. So I'm grateful, because one day I'll step in a room where I know all of it and somebody's going to be learning from me. And that's how you have to think of things. Like, advocate for yourself. You belong in those rooms. And most of the time too, people in corporate and in careers, especially high level positions, don't even know what the fuck is going on anyway. So, I mean, let me tell you, I have dealt with so many people with very high titles that are just not the brightest bulb at all. Not at all. And you could tell they got their position from talking their way into that role or knowing somebody, right? And usually that's how it rolls, is like, oh, you knew this person, this is how you elevated, and that's how you got in. That's another tea for another episode. But again, Don't think that you're probably the lesser of the room, because I promise you, there's a lot of people on google.com trying to figure out what the fuck is going on in these meetings, just as you are. All you hear is a bunch of corporate jargon and a bunch of BS anyway. So it is what it is, right? Going back to office politics, because I tend to spiral a bit. I'm so sorry. You, my friends, have to learn how to read the room. Read the room and read people's energies. That is a skill on its own, is to understand how people perceive you and how people are perceived. Who's the person that is the decision maker? Who's the person that's not the decision maker? Learn how to read the rooms. That is a skill you should master in any aspect, any place, because it will definitely strengthen your ability to communicate, to be more, what I want to say, like, confident, right? If you can understand possibly why this person is in the position that they're in or what they're saying. Understand power dynamics. I always tell people, when you start a company, and especially if you're in a role that manages people, or a role that, is set to make change in the organization, don't go in there immediately knocking on the door saying, oh my gosh, let's do this. Observe, spend some time understanding who is making the decisions, who and where are the alignments, because I promise you, they are there. You want to know and understand before you start pushing against people and pushing the wrong buttons. Once you understand the landscape, then you can start making your strategic moves. Then you can start making your decisions. Then you can make your changes. But give it some time. It takes some time to kind of learn who's who, how they feel about you, how they perceive you, who makes the decisions, who signs and gets the money, all that stuff. Always align yourself. Okay, this is for the people who want to advance in their career. If you don't care to advance in your career, and you don't mind getting laid off and possibly be at risk for those things, then ignore this. But if you care about the rise of your career and corporate climbing, you have to play the game. Find out who you need to align yourself with. The person who's well liked, the person who is always in the meetings with the execs, the person who has their ear. That's the person you need to align yourself with, right? Don't waste your time on the people who really is not going anywhere in their career. And that's just the truth. There's some people who's just there to fill the seat. There are seat warmers. And that's why I named this, you're not part of the plan, because those people will eventually be washed away, while those people who work their way in is just going to climb the top. If you don't want to think about where your next paycheck is coming, I suggest you learn the power dynamics, who to align yourself with, and the structures of your business, your company, whatever it is. It is very important. Even if you feel like you're at the bottom of the bottom, it is very important, because I promise you, the quickest way to rise into the top is who you're connected with and who you know, not hard work. Hard work matters because it accompanies that, but I promise you, you could work hard all your life and still be in the same position. They don't have to promote you if they don't want to. But those performance reviews will give you the 3% to 6% raise. That's tea for another time. When people, try to align themselves with you, make sure that they are individuals that are well liked in the organization. That's all I'll say. And then find people that you can treat as mentors and they can advocate for you, right? So I talked about advocating for yourself, but you also need people that say, hey, this person is like a damn good worker, right? You need those people as well, because, your word is as much as it is. Okay, guys, we talked about a whole lot for my first episode, and I can tell my pregnancy is starting to kick in because I'm starting to breathe heavy. So I need to wrap it up. But it was really great talking to you guys on this first episode. I'm so excited for the landscape of what I have to talk to you guys, because it just gets deeper and deeper. The hole gets deeper and deeper. And I want you guys to take away, just being stronger and being wiser and smarter and just rising to the top, because it is possible. Don't take things too hard. I promise you, everybody's getting screwed over. If you are working for a paycheck, you're getting screwed over. You're putting value on your time, and time is something you can never get back. So it's already a lose situation. So with that being said, your time is very important. So use it wisely. And I'm your host, Risa Quinn, and I am out so I can enjoy the rest of my night. Love you guys.